to talk about the Salt Lake drama this week. Hey there, everybody. Happy Friday to you. Welcome to the Tip-Off, the show that sets the stage for all the most important news, daily fantasy plays, and bets on tonight's 10-game NBA slate, 6-game MLB slate, and the Final Four. Welcome to our new stream at 3 p.m. Eastern. I am your host, Kayla Knierim. Joining me today, we have Ben Rasa and Chris Spags. Guys, happy Friday to you. How's it going?
Feeling good. I know Ben's got some fun things planned for the show. Finally gets to talk some Final Four for himself, but
yes,
this is the new tip-off show. We are hitting everything because all the sports are going. I've talked NFL and college football this morning. I've also prepped MLB and NBA. So everything in my brain right now is making a beautiful stew that's going to leak out over the course of this hour here on the tip-off.
Love it.
I feel the same way. I had a lot of things planned today, and I haven't been lazy. Other things came up. I just did a master show, which will be out, and hopefully everyone will enjoy that. Now we're going to switch focus, though. Yeah, a lot of sports, a lot of things. I'm going to be possibly dragged to the finish line, but we're going to make it. So I am excited.
We got this. Go team.
Yes.
All right, and for all of you viewers, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for countless hours of content on the NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, MMA, NASCAR, and every other sport that is in season. That's especially important with this new stream. Hit the like button, subscribe. We appreciate it. Let's talk about our sponsor, No House Advantage, who is taking a different spin on daily fantasy sports by offering player prop contests across the NBA, MLB, NFL, and PGA for cash prizes. This exclusively peer-to-peer fantasy sports platform levels the playing field and makes it easier for you to win real cash compared with your traditional DFS sites. The best part is you can join for free today. Just download the No House Advantage app and use promo code Awesemo to receive a first match deposit bonus of up to $20. Be your friends, not the house. Win big with player props today. Also, guys, I am very nervous my camera's going to shut off again. I have no idea how that happened yesterday. It's never happened before, and now it's all I can think about.
I think it was just tired of your face, I guess.
Oh wow. Eric's not on here, so now I'm the punching bag. I see.
That's true. Yeah, if we need Eric here to really balance out, to redirect the meanness. Instead, I'm not going to be mean to Ben. I respect Ben too much. Kayla, I respect you too, but you're the youngest on the set now, so you got to behave somehow.
Am I?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, at least in terms of Awesemo time, sir.
Oh, okay. Yes. All right. Okay, let's get to our bad beats. Last night's slate featured the surprising return of Paul George after a week spent debating his availability to play. Guys, how did it work out for you last night? Spags, we'll start with you.
Honestly, yesterday was fine. One thing that sucked for me was I was planning most of my lineups around the idea of having Kawhi be the late night hammer, the linchpin that sort of makes it all work. And he was perfectly fine yesterday, but I did think the ceiling would have been a bit higher if Paul George ended up out. He's done it both ways where we thought he'd play. He ended up not playing. Yesterday, we didn't seem like he was going to play. Then he gets upgraded to questionable, then becomes a game time decision, ends up playing. But for the most part, I feel like NBA was fine. Certainly when you're doing NBA and MLB prep, it can be a little bit challenging, but had some good results with MLB too. So I think that's sort of one of the things that Alex Awesemo Baker always says himself is that playing more slates is a good way to just increase your chances of bubbling up and upside for your financials, whether it be actually winning a tournament or just getting good results. And MLB helped balance out NBA being mediocre for me yesterday. So not mad at it, but that's life here in the multi-sport world.
Yeah, it was fine, actually. The Paul George news was a little weird because I liked the Nuggets in that game, and that scared me. Ended up not mattering. Of course, the Joker situation was fantastic. That was sweat-free. He just had a pretty quiet game, and I was happy about that. The Pistons absolutely demolished. Happy about that. And Spags talked about, the Cavs not really being able to hang in, and they did not. So on that side, it was good. I sweated out a tennis match that was delayed till all hours of the night, so I had to stay up very late for that. But you know what? It worked out nice and carry some of that momentum into Friday.
Tennis. Wow. What tennis match?
Yeah, and down in Miami Open, my girl, the Canadian, she got it done. Third set tiebreaker, very, very shady. Shouldn't have been that close, as I'm sure you both know. Didn't need to be that close, but we got it done. Did you watch SVU?
Ben, I'm so happy you asked. I did.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I almost cried. It gave me chills. The reunion was epic. And they're
Sounds
totally
like a tennis match.
They're totally setting it up for them to end up together, which I hope happens.
Typical.
I know. So predictable. Let's get to our NBA news, starting with Steph Curry. He is out today and is recovering from his tailbone injury, while Draymond Green and Jordan Poole are probable. Ben, who looks most appealing for Golden State versus Toronto?
So it's going to be, of course, a team effort, and I think there's no clear option. It's not one of those situations where one guy is going to take over that role, but you've got a couple different directions. I mean, Draymond being in certainly helps, and then you've got Wiggins. If you think that he'll take on the load, Poole be involved. Wiseman's the one that I really don't know what's going on. Yesterday didn't get a ton of minutes. Kerr seems to be kind of wishy-washy on what they want to do with him. I do think upside is potentially there. You're just incurring a lot of risk. The price is reasonable, so when I look at this game and I look at this team, Steph not being there, it opens the door for a ton of usage up for grabs, but I don't think it funnels to one direct player, which makes it interesting kind of across the board.
Yeah, I think to me, the thing with Golden State, we're going to have some teams today that are not priced to reflect all the injuries that are going to be out for them today. Whereas Golden State, you have these guys still sort of priced up for where they were when Steph was out for the week or so with his tailbone injury. Now he's back out for that again. And Andrew Wiggins, to me, at his price point, 7,500 on DK, I think you're kind of forcing it a little bit. I think Wiggins has the upside as a ceiling play for GPPs. I wouldn't mind it. But I think Jordan Poole, relative to this team that's going to be in tonight, I think he's the only one that seems at a playable price point. But still, I'd rather have some of the Pelicans guys who hit yesterday, who are going to be in an exact same situation today for the most part. I think also Atlanta's value being opened up, something that we're going to talk about coming up in a second. There's a lot of ways to go today that don't require Golden State. So I think, I don't mind getting them in as tournament plays, but for me, it's not a priority to be like, hey, I have to get 3 Golden State guys today because they're priced to reflect this life that was existing without Steph Curry already.
Quick follow-up on the SVU thing, by the way. I tweeted about it and Wolf Entertainment retweeted me. They are the creators of the show.
Oh.
But you got the verified check mark, right, too?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's why.
That's a cheat code. Come on now.
But like, I didn't tag them.
Of the Awesemo network.
That's exactly what they were thinking. All right, Kyle Lowry remains out for Toronto on their side of the game. Spags, is Fred VanVleet as crucial as he was the other day? And do any other Raptors jump out as more interesting?
So I think Fred VanVleet is, for me, going to be another priority play today. The price being up on DraftKings, I think, does cut into the ceiling a little, but still a play to me that really looks solid on its face. I think the thing that I'm going to be curious about when I run through the process, run through the ownership projections, all of that, and sort out the lineups, the 2,000 lineups that I'll crunch on Fantasy Cruncher today during our Live Before Lock show, which I'll be on with Greg. So great fun always playing lots of money while doing the Live Before Lock shows. But with Fred VanVleet, I think, to me, he's a play that I could see getting away from because there is a lot of value at the guard positions, but I still think the ceiling is there. We saw it last game without Lowry on the year, still for Fred VanVleet, around a 27% usage rate, a 30% assist rate, both very good numbers for him. I think to me, though, the most important thing of Toronto is that I really wouldn't want to point chase OG Anunoby, and I think a lot of people will, and that's one that jumped out to me. I think people will connect the dots and go, yeah, Anunoby's going to have a great game because he must be better when Lowry and when Norman Powell are out of the rotation, and I just don't know that's going to be the case. It could be the case. There's nothing I've seen rate-wise that indicates that. So I think prioritizing VanVleet and Siakam relative to whatever you get, according to their price points, is going to be much more important to me. But I think almost as important, if not more important, is just playing less OG Anunoby than the field, because I think that number could get pretty heavy, and you shouldn't be following his price with where it is now, just shy of 7K on DraftKings.
Yeah, that's really come up. And, VanVleet and Siakam, ownership will be there, but I don't think it'll be massive to the extent that it's really going to deter anything. The opportunity cost isn't immense, pretty reasonable tags. And in this situation, in this game against Golden State, I think there is a lot to like there. So looking at it, Raptors 4.5 point favorites at home, 220.5 total. I do think these are guys that you can get to. And although, there is, of course, some depth. There's a lot of games on this slate in the backcourt. There's a lot of options up and down the salary range. VanVleet makes sense on a lot of levels, and that's why the ownership is there. I think it, of course, that checks out. So no problem with him either.
Trae Young and Danilo Gallinari are both out today, joining John Collins on the sidelines for the Hawks. Ben, who gets a boost for Atlanta against New Orleans without these high usage scorers?
Yeah, so this is a lot of production potentially off the court for them. So you look, Capella's going to be busy, no doubt about it. And then it's just who else is left? You've got Bogdanovich, you've got some other places. Herter could be busy. I just don't know exactly what to make of this. These are two teams that are walking wounded, and we talked about, the Pelicans last night, and they just have so few guys, and all that production was out. And we're going to get to them in a second here, but I think you have to consider that there's going to be up for grabs with these type of names out. It's similar, honestly. It reminds me of Zion, Ingram, and Ball yesterday. We're not just talking about 3 players. We're talking about 3 key pieces. And for the Hawks, I think that's going to make a huge, huge difference. So Capella will be busy, and then anyone else who's going to see those minutes on this Atlanta team has got to be in play.
Yeah, between Trey and Gallinari and Collins being out, you're talking about 70% of the possessions that are on the floor with these guys. And that's just the shot part. You're also missing Trae Young's assist rate, which has been around 50% in court time without Collins. So these are really big parts of an offense to not have in there. You do have Lou Williams coming in to maybe take a little bit of that off the table, but I think Bogdan Bogdanovic is going to be the big beneficiary here. He's shown gigantic upside recently. Said yesterday I was a Bogdan guy. You know how you rewarded me by putting up another 50 fantasy point day yesterday. And I think that's what easily should be the spot here for him today. Just nobody out there going to handle the ball quite as much as he is. Kevin Huerter's going to get some more run. Lou Williams going to get some more run. Maybe Brandon Goodwin sneaks in a few more minutes, or Skylar Mays. But I think really the priorities here have to be Bogdan, have to be Kevin Huerter, have to be, I think, Lou Williams to some extent. But really, there's a lot of opportunity to go around, and really getting multiples of these guys, getting 3 or 4 Hawks who have outlier days wouldn't surprise me. It's because you're missing so much by not having Gallo, not having John Collins, and not having Trae Young in there.
In that same game, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, and Lonzo Ball may be out again after Eric Bledsoe, James Johnson, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and Josh Hart carried the team last night. Spags, are you down with another chalk night for these guys if Zion and company remain out?
It looks like one thing that was added to the injury report, which wasn't reflected in that news item that Kayla just read out, was that we do have Josh Hart also out too. So that means now you're getting another guy. There's no way to phrase it for putting it down for Kayla earlier. But I would say for me in this spot, I think really any Pelicans you want to play are going to be in play again. James Johnson was good last night, still minimum salary. I think he's one play that you can build around today. Maybe in tournaments, you might want to move away a little. I still think not a ton, but I think getting a bit less James Johnson, still not a crazy move, because everybody's going to see the results that he had yesterday, saw the big minutes run that he had yesterday, and want to plug him in. But I still think Eric Bledsoe, a very viable play. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, a viable play. Honestly, more viable because of Josh Hart being out. Kira Lewis Jr. still in the hunt. I think not as good of a play as those other guys, but still, to me, solid projection on him as value. Give me at least 4 Pelicans, I think, in most lineups tonight. Definitely 3, I think, seems like what a good amount for you, because it's a good matchup. It's a spot against Atlanta. They're also kind of going to be feeling themselves out on that side, so it's not likely they completely steamroll the Pelicans. Like, everything bodes well here for this game being one of the most crucial ones on the slate by a pretty wide margin.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about using several Pelicans, but when you add up that total salary, it's going to equate to like one superstar level price tag. And it just shows how much is up for grabs. The pricing hasn't had a chance to really catch up. So these guys are clearly all in play. And yeah, Josh Hart missing. I mean, we talked about this yesterday. I don't understand. He's become a rebounding machine. That guy, 17 boards last night for Josh Hart. So there's going to be more production up for grabs. And these guys, whether it's Johnson or the guards, are firmly in play. It's really just going to come down to how many of these guys you want to put in a particular lineup, and then who are you paying up for with all the value you've created, because this is an obvious spot to attack.
One thing to note too, real fast, Isaiah Thomas did sign with the Pelicans on a 10-day deal, but won't be available to make his debut until Sunday. So it doesn't change anything today, but I know that's something people may see and get confused by. So don't play Isaiah Thomas today. I don't think he's available on the sites, but also don't account for him taking production away, because he won't be doing that till Sunday.
Thank you for that note. Sure. Andre Drummond joined the Lakers and immediately ended up on the injury list alongside LeBron and Anthony Davis. Ben, who benefits with the Lakers being shorthanded yet again versus Sacramento.
Yeah, so they tried to bring in, I guess, reinforcements, and it just didn't work. So they're just back to where they were. It's going to be the same cast of characters. Kuzma's going to have to play big minutes and have to play well for this team to have a chance. Montrez on the inside and Markieff Morris, these guys have to be active. They have no other choice. They have no other bodies. And clearly, I think we all know that the Lakers are just trying to survive here. They're 4.5-point dogs on the road in Sacramento, 221 total. But when you just look at what they're going to need to do, it's got to be guys like Keith, like Kuzma, and Harrell on the inside to do major usage if they're going to steal a game in Sacramento tonight.
Yeah, I think to me, this is a spot to rely on the guys who we were relying on before Andre Drummond came in, where I guess we weren't relying on him that much, but these guys were in play every night. And I think today it's a matchup against Sacramento, who we talk about all year. They play faster than league average. They play poor defense compared to league average. Those are both positive things for the Lakers, where I think you can play Kuzma today. I think you can play Schroeder today. I think you can play Montrezl Harrell. They're not must plays because they're not value-minded plays like some of the other guys that we just talked about in that Atlanta game and the New Orleans game as well, same game, but both teams in that spot. I think the Lakers Lakers here, these are more the tournament plays you're getting to where you have your saving spots elsewhere. Maybe you go to Kuzma instead of Wiggins if Wiggins' ownership ends up a bit higher than it feels like it should be. But these guys are the ones I think you cycle in one Laker for the most part, get one of Kuzma, one of Schroeder, one of Harrell, because they're all going to have pretty big opportunities against a team that doesn't defend well. And I think you're probably going to see at least one outlier effort amidst the so-called big three of the Lakers that remains.
John Wall is questionable again versus Boston after Kevin Porter Jr. was a bit of a disappointment as chalk filling in for him last game. Spags, do you think Wall plays, and is Porter still a priority if Wall is out?
It's been one of the ongoing themes for me on these shows and any shows I do that I really want John Wall to play because he's been propping up one of my good best ball lineups on DK. But I think, again, I don't have the best read on him getting back in there today. It does seem like they've been very rest-minded for him. I think he plays. It wouldn't shock me if he doesn't. If he does play, he's a tournament option, but you still have Kevin Porter Jr. in there, I think, taking enough off the table for him. And same thing for Kevin Porter Jr. himself. If John Wall's in, I don't see how you'd play Kevin Porter Jr. unless you're just ignoring the median outcome. His numbers, his rates going down a good amount with Wall in there. So if Wall plays, he looks like a good play. If Wall's out, you can play Kevin Porter Jr., but he didn't really grade out that fantastically for me last time out. And he's a guy that I've been very high on all year. So I think people maybe not accounting for the fact that you do have the Avery Bradleys, the Kelly Olynyk's of the world available now for Houston, Christian Wood in there too. It's not the same smash spot for Porter, even if Wall's out. So Porter's fine if Wall's out, but like he's not a guy that you're going to lock in like you were when he was 3K and there were no other Houston Rockets left.
Yeah, Houston's just a tough team because they're horrible and they've got new guys. They want to see some things. And when you're planning for the future, there's a lot of minutes up for grabs. Someone like Porter, of course, is going to get his run. But you've mentioned they've got some other guys they're bringing in and they're seeing what's what. They're also 12-point dogs on the road here. So it is very possible this game is non-competitive. So looking at it, enough games on the slate, I don't think you need to go to the spot at all if you're not comfortable. If you want to roll the dice, whether Wall is in and you want to use him, or if he's ruled out and you want to use one of these other Rockets, particularly Porter Jr., I don't mind that, but I think it's a pretty easy situation that you can disregard if you have other guys in those same ranges. Not a huge opportunity cost in my mind.
Zach LaVine is also questionable again alongside Kobe White after the Bulls opened a lot of value with them out last game. Ben, does anyone look good if they're out again versus Utah?
So, again, I hate to say the same thing I just said, but on a slate like this, you can be a little more selective. And this is just a spot against the Jazz that they're 12.5-point dogs on the road, 225 total. You look at what the Bulls did, they've got Vooch now and some good pieces, and I think they could be a decent team, but I don't see anything that really screams massive value for this team. You look at Thaddeus Young and Lowry, I'm just not really there. So, of course, you're always going to have some appeal that you can roll the dice, but with so many games tonight, going into Utah is not a spot that I'm going to attack.
Yeah, I think I'm with Ben on this one. For the most part, to me, Chicago, I think could be okay in this spot. And we saw the other day where they were playing Phoenix and it was another tough matchup. And we saw them kind of embrace the volatility, which was one of Greg Ehrenberg's best takes on our late slate show. And conveniently on our last show that we were doing before, that one went on hiatus to do all the MLB content we're going to be doing now. But we called Denzel Valentine being a play that maybe gets more minutes. And I immediately latched onto that and took credit for it as my own idea. But I think that's the kind of play that today I don't mind going back to, because you're going to see the Bulls probably embrace the volatility a bit more because they just don't have guys who can score reliably if Zach LaVine is out, and Kobe White too. I think that to me is what you could do, is play a guy like Denzel Valentine, hope he gets minutes. But compared to the other value on there, you have James Johnson probably locked in for at least 25 minutes, probably even more than that. Like, it's hard to sort of force in a Denzel Valentine when you know you're going to get a guy who rebounds well, who gets peripherals, who can score a little at a cheaper price, I think, actually. So to me, that's sort of makes it tough to get your way to Valentine unless you know for sure that LaVine and Kobe White are both going to be out. But I think there's probably one play that comes out from this game. It's just right now not going to look as appealing as all the other value that we already have.
Ty Jerome continues to be out for the Thunder alongside SGA, Al Horford, Darius Bazley, Lou Dort, and Mike Muscala. Oh, that is so rough. Spags, are you willing to go back to Svi Mikhailiuk versus Phoenix after a good game last time out, or is his price on the rise? And his price is on the rise.
Yeah, I think with Svi, the thing is, as Kayla just said, the price is on the rise there for him. That makes it tough for a guy like Svi, who it looks better as one of those 3K plays. Now he's over 5K on DraftKings. The thing to me that stood out was last game. His teammates hate Svi. I watched the first quarter of that game. He put up like 10 shots within, or not quite 10, but was putting up all the shots in that first quarter. Then they immediately, I think he missed 2 threes after he was running hot in the beginning, and then they just didn't pass him the ball for the rest of the quarter. Ended up getting there in the fourth quarter of that game because he's a good player. He rebounded better in that game than you'd expect, but he did rebound better. He did shoot 9 for 14 in that spot. Like, those are the situations that it's hard for him to replicate that. And with his price coming up, the opportunities there for him, it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world if he has another good game. But they're playing a competent defense, and Svi is just too expensive. So I wouldn't take a ton of flyers there. And if people chase that and the ownership does come up, I just think that's definitely a play. Like, if he were 20% owned, I think just don't play Svi at that point.
Yeah, I mean, this is another game that serious blowout potential. The Suns are 13-point favorite at home, 220 total. And I think Spags highlighted some of the inherent risk here. And ownership does tell the tale with a lot of these guys. You know, you're not just comparing the play kind of in a vacuum or at face value. You have to incorporate some of that. So if he continues to shoot an unreasonable clip, well, he'll probably be paying off his salary more often than not, but that's going to regress. And if some ownership starts to mass here, there's a lot of ways that this game goes sideways and that the Thunder are kind of ineffective across the board. So with so many mid-range options, not just the Pelicans, but several teams in addition to them, I think this is a pretty easy pass all in all. Now, if the ownership doesn't mass and you want to roll the dice again, certainly can do that. But if people notice it, and coming off that game against Toronto, I think they will, I would look elsewhere.
All right, that's going to do it for our key news. As we all know, the MLB is back, and we have a deal for you. Get your first 9 days of Awesemo Plus MLB for only $9 when you use promo code STARTING9. That's starting with the numeral 9. This gives you access to everything we have to offer for MLB DFS, including player projections, ownership projections, top stacks, lineup builder, and our premium Slack channel. This offer is valid through April 9th. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus MLB today. And now for our brand new segment, all about MLB, appropriately titled Biggest Bat. Hello. Which of these top 5 odds getters on OddsShopper do you think is the best overall bet to hit a home run tonight? First up, you guys have got Cody Bellinger plus 250 to home run. Spags, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I think these guys in the top 5, you're going to see as we go through a lot of Dodgers in the lineup. And I think that's going to be the bet that's always going to pop up playing at Coors. As we saw yesterday with the Dodgers, high run totals going into Coors always. And the Dodgers were the most popular stack. Didn't quite come through, though. I don't think they also killed you because I played them in every lineup and, had a nice night in MLB, but weren't the outlier effort that you would hope for. But in this spot against Antonio Senzatella, I do think Bellinger actually should have had a home run yesterday. And that was one of the weird news items that came out of that game where bounced off the outfielder's hand into actually out of the stadium. Then Bellinger ran past Justin Turner somehow and ended up, baseball's so stupid with those things sometimes where it's like, oh, here's an outdated rule. You ran ahead of the base runner, even though you hit the ball out of the park. So now you're out and the guy gets an RBI. I don't get how that worked, but basically should have had a home run yesterday. So Cody Bellinger, a power guy going against somebody in Senzatella who gives up a lot of power to both sides of the plate. I think Bellinger is deserving of being the top odds getter, but there may be better values out there because this one just, I don't know, it could be too obvious.
So first thing we're going to get out here is the disclaimer that do not be I believe very strongly that with basketball and with college sports that I've got some things to say. Baseball, I bet it occasionally, but certainly not my best sport. And I just look at the numbers here. You mentioned it, Spags. In Coors, over-under is 12 in this game. That's significantly higher than anywhere else. So that's where I would start. We've got 5 names on this list, whether it's Bellinger, Betts, Seager, Jose Abreu, and Will Smith. So right there, I'm just going to stick to the Dodgers. I'm going to go to Corey Seager. I'll go to the lefty. Obviously, he's got the right splits there. He's plus 275 to home run. And really, I think you're splitting hairs. All these guys are pretty live. Looking at the odds, of course, there's some of the favorites on the slate, some of the most expensive options. I'm going to go with Seager there, but I think clearly, as everybody knows, when you're in Coors, these type of props are going to be elevated for those guys.
And I would say, and this might be the DFS player in me, where I did look at Abreu and go like, honestly, I kind of get why Abreu would be similarly odds. And I think in some respect, and this actually may be something Ben has thoughts on, but I think when you see 4 guys in Coors and 1 guy out of Coors, like, yeah, the Coors guys are going to have a better shot of getting the home run. But the fact that Abreu is even amidst this top 5 to me says that he's actually probably a pretty good play today going against Andrew Heaney, who has given up some production to righties, gives up a 200 ISO to righties over the last couple seasons. So there's power that Heaney gives up. I think that, to me, like, Abreu is probably not the most sure thing because he's playing at a stadium that's not quite as beneficial as Coors. But the Angels Stadium has been just as bad in home runs, at least over the smaller term sample size of last season. And I think, to me, a power guy in another spot, you're getting decent odds on Abreu. And I think, to me, maybe you're not making that bet on Abreu, but I think if you're, kind of parlaying that over to DFS and going, why is Abreu so high compared to all these Dodgers at Coors? I think that could mean that Abreu is a play in DFS to take and hold a little more esteem.
Yeah, no, that is a fair point. I mean, just to have him, obviously these other guys, I think it's pretty obvious if the game wasn't in Coors, their odds to hit a home run on any given day would be slightly inflated and elevated in terms of your payoff. That's not the case here, but seeing Abreu amongst them, that does speak some volumes. Now, overall, I still believe when you're looking at the over-unders in the game, for the Angels, it's sitting at 8.5, which does seem a little light. I'm not going to push back on that, but you are getting, 4 more implied runs for the Rockies and Dodgers, a lot to go around there. So again, the harder part for me is not, are the Dodgers going to hit a couple home runs? It's just who. That's a very tough task. You're trying to split hairs there with 3 very, very reasonable options.
Ben, could have fooled me. You act like you know what you're talking about.
No, I don't, though. Baseball's tough. Listen, I think the thing for me, Spags, and this is an interesting question, just kind of philosophical. With a game that's daily, sometimes there's 2 slates a day. Do you find it where you have to get into a rhythm? Because most of my best sports with DFS, golf, NFL, they're all weekly. And, you get some downtime, you get to examine. With, MLB, the late slate ends at 1 a.m, and then there's an afternoon slate, sometimes 12 hours later.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is some equity in playing a lot of the slates and getting used to it. I know for Alex, for Awesemo, he always says, playing more slates sometimes is what breaks him out of whenever he's had a downslide. I'm sure this must be catastrophic for him, but but for the rest of us too, I think it's the same thing. Playing more slates is going to be better. I think with MLB, the one thing that I could say for it, and this is honestly not even shilling for the product, but I think, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I'm pretty sure Awesemo has made his most money off of MLB over the years because it is one of the more projectable sports. It is event-based, and it also basically any batting average is going to tell you, hey, 30% of the time, this guy's going to get this result. The home run rates are going to tell you, hey, 7% of the time, this guy's going to knock it out of the park. And I think that there is something here where MLB, to me, is a sport you could probably pay the least attention to. Just use the data and kind of know that, hey, I have to make 5 3 stacks. I have to make 5 2 stacks on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I'm making my 4 4s and 4 3s and whatever. But I think that that's sort of the thing with MLB you can do with that you can't do with NBA. With the NBA, I think you really kind of need to know it, and you need to be either on a data level playing it every day and playing a lot. But with MLB, I think just play some slates, use Awesemo's projections, use the top stacks tool, and just get lineups in. As long as you're constructing them right, you're going to have a decent chance of bubbling up.
All right. Before we go to biggest arm, anything else you guys want to touch on biggest bat?
Did I make this too phallic? I think would be the question I have.
It's on the cusp. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, we get our standalone show, and now you get it canceled. Nice job.
When I read that, I was like, all right, here we go.
We got biggest arm up next. That can't be phallic. I guess it goes with biggest bat. I don't know. You know what they say about a man with a big arm?
The only thing I'll say, again, this speaks just to kind of put a bow on the philosophical part of it, is that baseball and golf have a lot of correlation in the sense that, LeBron tonight, or we're talking about, well, not tonight because he's quite injured, but if he was playing, he would outscore someone on the end of the bench every time, 100 out of 100, because minutes are king in the NBA. But tonight in baseball, there is a very, very real chance that, say, Corey Seager just goes 0 for 4 and he gets actually 0, and some random 9th hitter hits a home run. And with baseball, that's just a concept that you have to kind of get used to. The floor and the ceiling are a little more interchangeable in that regard, whereas some of the other sports, there's inherent production because minutes equal production. And that's just not the case with baseball. And that's one of the big hurdles to kind of philosophically get over.
And I think for me, one frustration point that I've had over the years with baseball, which I'm hoping to kind of address this year with some of the process changes I'm doing, but it always tilts me to no end when I'm like, I love this team. I think a 5-man stack looks great. I get 5 guys in, and then it's a 7th hitter who hits a home run. And I'm like, well, cool. Why didn't the guy who's hitting cleanup, who looks fantastic, do it? I think that's the one thing with baseball that gets you a lot more, where for the NBA, for the most part, what these guys are going to do to some extent. What the range of outcomes is a little more clearly. But as Ben mentioned, even the Billy Hamilton Nelson's the world, the guy who's a speed guy who never hits a home run. There have been slates where he was the one who hit a home run, and I was like, are you kidding me? I played everybody besides this guy. And I think that's the one thing with MLB that you can't get too tilted over, especially when you are comparing it to the other sports. But definitely some wrinkles to MLB that are different. But for me personally, I just think it's the most plug and play. When you use the Awesemo data, you get in there, use that starting 9 promo code, and just honestly use the tools that are there. And you probably have to pay less attention than us, with NBA, where guys are getting ruled out left and right. And there are also very meaningful ways to point to, oh, this guy being out changes everything for this entire team. For MLB, it's not quite that case. It's basically a one-on-one sport that we treat as a team sport.
All right. Good stuff from you both. Let's head over to Biggest Arm. Which of these top 5 odds getters on OddsShopper do you think is the best strikeouts over bet tonight? We've got Johnny Cueto over 5.5 strikeouts, Trevor Bauer over 7.5 strikeouts, Andrew Heaney over 5.5, Blake Snell over 6.5, and Pablo Lopez over 5.5. Ben, do you want to go first, or should we start with Spags?
It's real great. Sure. I'll go first. Let's see who we got here. I'm going to go with Pablo Lopez for Miami here. It's sitting at 5.5. This is really just a product of a couple of things. A, I like the park. B, from what I've seen, it looks like he's got a pretty good strikeout rate. And C, looks like the Rays are prone to strikeout, looking back at their 2020 statistics here. So again, it's early in the year. These lines are going to be pretty efficient. OddsShopper, like anything, speaking to the player prop world, you want to go there. You want to shop the odds because some of these are, 5.5 minus 150, and then you might find minus 130 out there. Those make a huge, huge difference. So I'll go to the Miami situation and say over 5.5 strikeouts there. I'm very interested to see Spags give a more informed opinion on these guys. What say you?
I mean, Trevor Bauer is the best pitcher of the group. And I think the fact that he's getting 7 strikeouts, I guess in cores, you are still not really getting much of a detriment. The detriment to you getting strikeout numbers is not so much the air there, which lends to more power, but the fact that you could get banged up pretty fast with guys, taking a guy like Trevor Bauer, who has always struggled going against power, taking him yard. I think the lefties here for Colorado could pose some danger. But that doesn't matter for, I think, this kind of bet where Bauer at 7 strikeouts, maybe he gets there, but you are taking on some degree of risk going to cores. I think the Pablo Lopez call is interesting because we just saw Sandy Alcantara have probably one of his best outings, I think, as a pro pitcher yesterday against Tampa Bay, where he hung in there against Tyler Glasnow, looked about as good as I think Sandy Alcantara's ever looked. And he got the strikeouts too. So Pablo Lopez in play. The one guy that I do think has good odds, and it kind of makes sense when you look at it, is Johnny Cueto. And he comes with some degree of risk too, because he does give up a good bit of power, but he's also a guy that he's facing a line that's got 7 guys that strike out above league average. And that's almost as important as a guy's own strikeout ability, just going against players who strike out a lot, who also don't have a lot of ability. And that's kind of Seattle's lineup. I hope our pal Emac isn't listening because he'll be disappointed as a lifelong Mariners fan. But I think Cueto might be the best pick on the board, even though he's not a pitcher you love. I think he's playable in DFS and playable in this bet because he's going against a team that stinks and strikes out a lot. And Cueto has shown that if he's out there, he can get strikeouts as long as he just doesn't get destroyed. And I don't think Seattle destroys him tonight, whereas Bauer could get into some trouble at Coors in a way that isn't the best.
All right. And that concludes the MLB portion of this show.
Yay.
Thank you.
We
guys.
did it. People in
well
the chat
done,
are so
guys.
tilted.
I know. Guys, we're going to talk about NBA still, and we've got NCAA. Let's pump the brakes.
We're just Renaissance people on this show. We do a little bit of everything. We're jacks of all trades and masters of none is what we aspire to be here.
And don't forget, one of the biggest edges in sports betting is always shopping to find the best line. Betting lines change by the minute and can vary greatly depending on which book you are using. That's why it's important to use OddsShopper's Awesemo's OddsShopper to find the best line available on the game or player prop you are betting on and give you that edge to help you beat the house. Head on over to oddshopper.awesemo.com where we compile the best bets available for game lines, player props, player and team futures, all updated in real time. And now, Ben's time to shine. Dr. Rasa. This weekend is the Final Four with Baylor facing Houston and the much reviled UCLA Bruins facing the equally hateable Gonzaga Bruins. I wonder who wrote this. We'd all have loved to see USC here instead, but who do you think ends up in the national championship game? And are there any particularly appealing bets to make? Ben, we're obviously going to start with you here.
Yeah, this is nice. This will balance out Major League Baseball. Yeah, Spags with his UCLA. Why do you hate Gonzaga? What did they ever do to you besides
kicked USC's asses and
dismantled?
embarrassed us on a national stage? I'm very mad at them too, but I'm just glad Kayla shares my opinions. I think that's the main thing I heard come out.
Yep. With you.
All right. Well, all right. We'll take them one by one. So the first game, Gonzaga is 14.5 point favorite over UCLA. and it's warranted. I don't know exactly what UCLA can do to really make it a game. The only out I have, they're 338th in the country in tempo. I guess if I was them, I'd try to shorten the game. Less possessions make more variability. If you shoot a ridiculous percentage from three, maybe you can hang in. The problem is Gonzaga punches first. In every game that they've played, Spags, I know you can attest to this, you blink and they're up 10 points, and then you're not able to slow the tempo. So I don't know exactly how UCLA is going to do that. Timmy, Cuthbert, Suggs, these guys are all going to be, ridiculously good. They are ridiculously good. Certainly going to have some pros in there as well. I don't think UCLA has the personnel. I'm not going to lay 14.5, but I don't see a lot to break down in the game. I just think Gonzaga is just strictly too good, and they will easily move on that side of the bracket.
I have to say with Timmy, he blew me away because I think I might have said this on this show. I said it somewhere, but just looked like a rec league guy out there and was killing Evan Mobley, killing everyone in a way that I did not expect. So I think he alone, I'm going to put all my money on him against UCLA, but he's a dude that I did not even know existed really. And I don't think he's got the athletic profile to make it to the pros, but for college, boy, that is the kind of guy that hyper effective in a way I think you wouldn't expect just looking at him.
And he's got, you see he's got the facial hair going. The guy is a character. And Suggs is by far the best, I would say, pro prospect. He's got everything that you want. And I think there's a chance that he's the number one pick. To be honest, he's unbelievable, but they just have everything. They're number one in every efficiency metric. Their offensive efficiency is literally off the charts. So I don't know, UCLA, good for them. I mean, they should have lost in the play-in game and now they're here, but they just don't have the firepower. And if I thought there was a slight chance that the Mobley brothers inside could punish Gonzaga, and it didn't even remotely materialize, I don't even know what UCLA could really do. And their best player sprains his ankle pretty much every possession. That's another problem for UCLA. So it's going to be a tough day for them. On the other side, much more competitive game. We've got Houston. We've got Baylor 5.5-ish. And it's a weird Styles makes fight situation. Baylor's the number one 3-point shooting team in the entire country. Houston's one of the best 3-point shooting defenses in the entire country. I just don't know if they can slow them. It's one thing to slow Syracuse and attack that zone. It's another to slow Baylor, Butler, Mitchell, 5 other guys. They have so many guys that can shoot threes. I think it's too much. To be honest, I think they will overpower them. Another slow, methodical game. Houston likes to play slow. I think Baylor speeds them up, though, and particularly causes problems like we saw against Arkansas. When they smother you on defense, it's very difficult. I mean, Spags, have you seen a lot of, I know you don't watch a ton of college basketball. Have you seen much of Baylor? I'm really impressed every time I watch them.
So I have seen some of Baylor. I do think what you're saying, and I haven't seen as much of Houston, but I think you quoting those two stats to me speaks to it. And that's sort of the thing that I find, doing these shows for the channel for a while, knowing our basketball, knowing our football and all those things, that you could jump in and point to certain things. And I think if a team, to me, if they're closing out on 3-point shooters really well, and Baylor's a good 3-point shooting team, I'm more inclined to take the defense in that kind of spot, especially at the college level, just because the fact that it just takes Baylor missing a few threes they might normally make, plus, Houston actually defending better, where I think that output could change quite a bit. And teams that embrace volatility, I think it's a good thing when you're a lower profile team, a lower seeded team for the NCAA tournament, but taking a team that's going to be less volatile, that's going to limit the volatility a bit more in Houston, I think that's the move that I would truly back out. So for me, I think Houston would be the pick that I would make, but I think Baylor, from what I've seen, you probably want them to make the championship because they're the most fun outcome, them against Gonzaga, but I think the defense wins and Houston pulls it out.
Sorry, I had a patient there. What did I miss, Spags?
I am truly speechless.
Yeah, you like that? I had to pull out all the stops.
Whoa.
Well, I have nothing else to say on the Final Four. Just to wrap that up, though, Baylor, the way that they play, I'm not a Scott Drew fan. I just love the way they play. They harass on defense, make threes. I don't think Houston can keep up. They've got the tempo, but I just think ultimately they will be strung out. Baylor Gonzaga final, tough call. I think everyone thinks Gonzaga is going to win. They're the best team. I think Baylor has a puncher's chance, though. I definitely don't think it's a walkover in the national championship.
Who are you picking to win it all?
Go ahead, Spags. I'll tell you.
For me, I think it's Gonzaga, and I might just be biased here, but I just found them impressive as a team. And I think too, as Ben was saying, I saw the lesser prospects kind of having a day that was really impressive. I think if they get the high octane game from a guy like Suggs, I think that could be a difference maker.
Gonzaga's the best team. I do think that Baylor can test them in ways that nobody else can. So if we get that game, depending on what the line is, I may take a position on Baylor, but there's no doubt that Gonzaga is undefeated for a reason. I think they're probably too good. So
Kayla went dark again.
Are you kidding me?
I was going to say, are you
my
changing
gosh.
into a doctor's outfit?
Kayla's doing some protests here in favor. Also, one guy in the chat, I'll address while Kayla fixed her camera real fast, and I'm just replying to him, but he was saying, didn't like the way that I talked about Time and the way that I said doesn't look like an athlete, rec league, good, but no good for NBA. It's really more the fact that he has no muscle on him at all and just looked soft and silly. He looks like Gardner Minshew playing basketball. But I think, trying to make that into a racial thing, I think is a bit of a stretch, but we don't, no Eric Lindquist on here, guys. Don't, but I just,
no, I mean, to me, just there is an element though. I've seen a lot of Gonzaga. There was a player on Eastern Washington who plays like this. He's just very. He almost. It looks like he's not fast. It's like he's in slow motion. Then he's by you. He's got that type of element to his game. It's very like unorthodox and methodical, yet it's so effective. When you look at Suggs, you're like, oh, this guy, that's an NBA like player. Someone like Timmy, and we see this in the tournament. He's just very crafty. I think that's the word I'd go with. And it's such a compliment to their team. It's amazing.
I would say to me, it really spoke to me watching him play because it's like how I play an NBA 2K when I'm playing. Like I have my created guy who's like basically a big stiff because I made him thinking like, oh, cool. And in the regular game mode, he'll be like Giannis when it's just me playing the computer. And he is like Giannis when I'm playing online against a bunch of guards who like they create their characters to hit 99 from 3 and dribble. By the way, this is a stretch for an analogy, but bear with me. Like my guy's just all about fundamentals and good moves. And I was like watching Timmy and going like, I relate to this guy because he's clearly not as talented, but he's just knows the spots to be at and knows the way to work it. So I think, you can make it into whatever you want to, but there's something to be said for, at the next level, it's a little bit tougher, but guys who just get into the right spots and know what to do, that's its own skill compared to being like a hyper athletic guard, like the guys you're going to have in the G League playing for the Ignite team this year. Like those guys are amazing athletes, but they have to figure out the other parts. Timmy's got the other parts figured out. He's just, going to always kind of be Gardner Minshew.
Yeah. I mean, no doubt.
All right. And now to our favorite segment. I'm back, by the way. I don't know what's going on with the camera.
See what happens when we have to fill because your camera goes out? God.
I know. So sorry. All right. Dr. Ben Rasa, prop of the day. Here we go. It's time for the Dr. Ben Rasa prop of the day with his monumental win streak now up to, you guys, 11-0 on tip-off shows after Nikola Jokic hit the under on 43.5 points plus rebounds plus assists yesterday. Here we go. Dr. Ben, you have proven to be as wise as the owl that you are that is so lovingly pinned to your wall with a far more diverse vocabulary. Your Herculean betting winning streak continues to overwhelm the hearts and minds of everyone who encounters you. And now that the tip-off show is on its own stream, that very fate of the show relies on your continued success. So Dr. Ben, with our careers and livelihoods on the line, who is your prop bet of the day? No pressure.
Oh, yeah, no pressure. Oh, wow. So we don't even plan these things anymore. I was going to say, what did I hit? All right. It's been a fun run. We're having, oh, dear God, pulling out all the stops on the show.
Oh, my gosh. That's amazing.
Before I give my prop here, and Kayla disappears again. We're having a great time here. It's so fun to have the stream kind of as a standalone. I'm going to ask for some likes, though. Let's pump those up. Let's show the rest of these deeper dive live before live characters that we can hang as our own. So pump that up, hit the subscription button and the notification bell. We have so much content, not just NBA, baseball, college basketball, which is just this show. It's the Masters week. Come on now. I know we're excited, but we will get to my prop right now. Tough night. I'm going to stick with the same formula that I've been doing. I'm going to these points, rebounds, assists, not going to a superstar, but a primetime player in Kristaps Porzingis. His points, rebounds, assists, it's a little varied across the industry, and this speaks to why OddsShopper is so important. I found a 29.5, and I'm going over that number. He draws the Knicks tonight. It's not the easiest of matchups, but to me, that's a pretty appealing number. I know he's not going to rack up assists by any stretch, but even if he gives me a handful, I'll take it. First thing I like, the minutes are trending upward. As the Mavericks has gotten it together, he's pushing over 31 minutes on average over the last month, and that includes a couple blowout games where he was on the court for mid-20s. The second thing, and again, it's a small sample size, but just looking at the Knicks in recent games, and I watch him, sadly, the centers have absolutely murdered them on the boards in recent games. Towns had his way with 17 boards. Bam for the Heat was absolutely just dominating them. I think Porzingis is very live for a double-double here. So I know it's going to be tough sledding, but I think stretch bigs in particular can cause the Knicks problems. He will get off some shots, of course, from three. They do defend the arc, but I think they're better at defending from behind the three-point line in the backcourt. I think someone like Porzingis could get loose tonight. And again, we're talking 29.5. So when we were talking Jokic yesterday, that was 43.5. That's a massive gap. To me, this is one we can go over. I'm getting -110 on 29.5. That is by far the best line. I see 31s.5 out there. I'm stealing 2 full points. That's huge in a matchup like this. So Spags, as I say every time, you with me or you against me?
I am with you on this one again. I have Porzingis with my projections going for 30.1. I'm also not even going to point out, Ben, that on the sheet you have Christoph Porzingis, so you gave him a new name. But
I was scrambling.
Must have been that doctor handwriting that throws you.
Like Frozen.
But yeah, Porzingis to me in this spot, the one concern I would have is that it is a pace down, but the median projection for me is over that mark. So I'm fine with it. And I think when you sprinkle in a little bit of the fact it's a revenge game, as people in the YouTube chat are pointing out, I don't mind it at all. I think, the overs that Ben has hit, I think are ones he's sort of isolating ones that seem to be slightly inefficient. And I think in this spot, you can sort of nickel and dime it, but how can you ever question a man who is facing down a dozen correct picks on a YouTube show? I can't do it. And the man's a doctor for a reason. That's all.
Christoph. Christoph Ventura is on the mind for any of the golfers out there. That guy cannot get right. But yeah, I mean, Spags, you obviously bring up a very fair point, pace down. To me, this is one of the many reasons that, you have a particular prop on a given night. It can be you absolutely love it and you think the books are crazy. It also could be that one of the books hung a bad number. And that's kind of where I'm at here. 29.5 is too light. 31, 32. Okay, now we're getting in there. I'm not paying extra juice. It's not 29.5 minus 170. It's 29.5 minus 110. That's what 31.5 is at on other books. So seeing that, I feel pretty comfortable that I'll get my chance. Now, if he doesn't shoot well, if he doesn't rebound well, I'm going to be in trouble here. But you know what? You got to incur that risk every time. Feel comfortable with the number. I feel comfortable with the play.
Thank you, Dr. DFS.
You're quite welcome.
I think this is going to your head a little bit, but that's me.
Yeah. If I hit this one, who knows what I'm coming out with? I know I got a pack. So I'm sitting here. We get a knock at the door, and May gets an Amazon package literally every hour. So I'm like, oh God, what did she buy now? And it's for me. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And I open it up, and it's a stethoscope and a doctor's whatever this is called. So someone behind the scenes, probably our man Nolan Kelly, is working overtime to get me whatever this is. So I had to show the respect for that. Wasn't expecting it.
I just can't wait for you to have to do a whole show in character as a doctor, because that's where this is going. We're trying to make some new vetting content, and this is the one bit that's landed, I guess, great. Besides money time. I don't know, but I think I'm down to pretend to be a patient talking to Dr. Ben. I think we got some real bits. We got some spin-off shows already. How could you not believe in the tip-off at this point?
There's a lot we can do with this, and you play the part so well.
I guess there are worse things to have to pretend to be. Like I'm not putting on a red nose and a clown's, that would be bad. But
wait, can we also pull up the Photoshop again? I think Tyler, if you're paying attention.
Please.
Because I just want to point out with this Photoshop, and Nolan sent it to me earlier today from our graphic design team. They made Ben the most handsome motherfucker who's ever lived in this Photoshop, where he's not only a doctor, he's like a Grey's Anatomy doctor. They'd call him like nerd doctor or something, but or it's like sexy nerd doc would be their nickname for him. But like unbelievably dreamy photo for Ben Rasa, the money doctor.
McBenny.
Yeah, I gotta save this photo and keep this on the that's when you can thank the people behind, again, the people at Awesemo. We got the best of the best. Well, whoever's touching these photos up, they obviously know what they're doing. So
this is so believable.
Well, who knew? Patch Raz's segment would be great. See, now we're getting out of control. This is I like it, chat.
Patch Rasa.
Does he with the clown nose giving kids bets?
Yeah, where are we? We've gone off the rails here, but
oh, are you terminally ill? Don't worry. Take Christoph
that can't end well, but this is as extravagant as it's gonna get. So you better enjoy this, chat, because I don't know if we could push it. I know Luffy's got ideas. I don't know if we could push it beyond.
Oh no, you have to do this every time now. That's the deal.
Okay, well, we'll see. And then when I inevitably go on a losing streak, we'll come up with a gimmick for that. We got you covered here at Awesemo, no doubt about it.
Sure do. All right, let's move on because we are going to run out of time here. No house advantage, prop or not. Here are some of no house advantages props of the day for key players. Do you guys like the over or under on them, and how many points would you assign? First up, we've got Andrew Wiggins, over under 19.5 points plus assists. Spags.
Oh, I don't even know. I think it's the over for me here. It's not Andrew Wiggins to me is a play on DFS sites. I don't know that I'm going to get a lot of. He was good in that recent run of games without Steph Curry, but I think in this spot, he's a little bit overpriced for me with what I'm seeing DFS wise on both FanDuel and DraftKings. But I think a no house advantage where you're just playing the prop lines. To me, this does seem like mostly an efficient line. And I think, that's really one way you can play Wiggins. If you're not getting him on DraftKings and FanDuel, I think playing some of the no house advantage props is just an easier way to try to take some skin in a game. Wouldn't be a 10-pointer for me. I think it's still closer to a 6 or 5-pointer given some of the other guys that are going to be out there today. But Wiggins is in play as an over, and I think probably a better no house advantage bet on the over there than just actually play him on DraftKings or FanDuel today.
Yeah, I'm completely in line. I don't love the play in general without Steph, but without Steph, the no house advantage, there is value on the over there.
Fred VanVleet, over under 26.5 points plus assists. Ben.
So this is another one that I would go over, and it's just a product of personnel. Don't love it, not running to the window, but looking at Alex's, no house advantage projections, he's leaning over as well. And I think that's a pretty easy call. Not going to be a 10-pointer, but worth to be on the card.
Yeah, for me, I think I have VanVleet at about 32 points plus assists today. Talked about earlier, the usage rate for him goes just shy of 30. The assist rate for him just shy of 30. Both very good numbers for him, where Toronto should have an easy time staying in this game, one would think, with no Steph Curry on the other side. I think VanVleet, also, honestly, for him, not going to have to defend as hard because he's normally the guy who has to chase Steph around all the screens and do what he can to limit him. It's not going to be the case today, so I think it all bodes really well for VanVleet with no Kyle Lowry.
Spags, right back to you. Evan Fournier, over under 26.5 points plus rebounds plus assists.
So this is one of those ones that we talk about a lot on here that we always try to make sure to bring to the people that the under for this one, according to Awesemo, has an 85.5% chance of hitting, which is about the highest of everybody, excluding the guys who aren't on the slate. And then they're going to hit the under because they're not playing today. So to me, taking Evan Fournier, this line is being set, reflecting his Orlando opportunity and the role he had. When you have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in there, as well as Kemba Walker, Evan Fournier is a distant fourth option, I think, and maybe closer to Kemba. So you could say he's a 3B, but really to me, he is a distant fourth. And I think you're going to see that a lot in Boston. So taking the under on this, if he gets anything today, it's just points. I think he's not contributing a lot in rebounds, not contributing a lot in assists. So fading Evan Fournier when it's reflecting his Orlando role and not his Boston role seems like the wise move. So the under to me, probably a 9 or 10 pointer today.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. One of the key ones on the entire slate.
There you have it. Let's head over to our DFS hedge. How can you hedge daily fantasy lineups with a bet like taking the over on a prop for a player you're fading tonight? Dr. Rasa.
So as usual, I'm not in love with this theory. I think it might be one of the Pelicans, but you're not even going to get a great prop on those guys. So to me, it would be kind of just play it straight up. If something breaks at the end, maybe you act accordingly in these late games, whether it's OKC or Phoenix, the Kings or the Lakers.
Spags.
Oh, wait, what? Sorry, my
So I was like, am I frozen?
I don't often talk. I have a cat in addition to my 2 dogs, who is the longest tenured one in the house, and she's like chasing a fly on the windowsill and about to knock things over, and I'm just hoping that it doesn't happen. And that's where I'm landing with my DFS hedge, though, is going to be. I'm easily distracted today after Ben.
We're all over the place.
But the hedge today, I think for me, ownership wise, would be just going against the Pelicans. They look to me like a team that is going to be fantastic for DFS today, but there are many ways that they could fail, just not getting as much of effective play from Eric Bledsoe, not having Josh Hart in there too. That's one less guy who can rebound, score, and assist at a decent clip. And I would say for me that in this spot, going against the Pelicans, betting on Atlanta, I think that's one bet you could make that maybe gives you some money line juice. And then also is one way to get away from the Pelicans, the fact that you're probably going to be owning them very heavily, no matter what DFS site you're playing on tonight.
I know Ben is definitely distracting. I can't look at you or take you seriously now.
Just went off the rails, and I feel like we should just end the show with the Dr. Ben segment because there's nowhere to go but down.
Yep.
Exactly. We can't go up from here. In real life, there is no such thing as a bad dog. In betting in DFS, there are a lot of underdogs who may have no chance in their game. So who is a good dog to target tonight and who's a bad one? There we go. Sorry, I didn't even give Tyler a chance to play it. Spags, let's start with your good dog. And he was ready. He was ready. I'm so sorry, Tyler.
Tyler's ready. Tyler's always on the beck and call of everything here. I will say for me, my good dog, because what I just talked about would be Atlanta. I think there's something interesting here with two skeleton squads playing in a line of only 1 point favoring New Orleans, where it wouldn't shock me if Bogdanovic shoots the lights out to a lesser extent. I think Herter as well can get hot. And Lou Williams, we know what he can do. And he's also away from Atlanta, so he won't have the temptation of delicious chicken wings to get him this time. So I think overall bodes well. I think that Atlanta can cover here, obviously cover a 1 point bet, can win outright, I would think. And to me, that's why they're an interesting hedge. And I think an interesting bet overall is just to take them today on a day where both teams are shorthanded.
I'm going to go with the Blazers 3-point dog at home, 240.5 total. This game is going to be absolutely insane. I think if it gets towards and over that total, it actually favors the Blazers. They want to play at that pace. Lillard obviously can be the best player on the floor anytime. You're going to give me 3 points at home. I'll just lean to the Blazers there. And
Ben, your bad dog is?
The Bulls. I don't see any chance that they could go into Utah and hang around.
My bad dog's going to be the Thunder. They're a team that I 13-point spread at Phoenix, I think, is one of those that to me portends a 20-point blowout today. The Thunder getting less healthy as they go, getting Ty Jerome has been super efficient for them, him not being in. Svi's going to do his job, but I don't think he shoots 9 for 14 today. And if he does shoot slightly less, they're probably not going to be in the game. So I think taking the Thunder here to lose handily would be my pick.
And fade of the day, make or break. First up, which player or game currently looks like a make or break spot to you on tonight's slate, Ben?
So for me, I'm going to stick to this theory. I really want to hit this prop and keep it going despite what it comes with, the baggage. But yeah, Porzingis getting there tonight, having an effective game would go a long way for me in the betting world.
Yeah, I think for me, this Hawks Pelicans game is going to be the one that I'll have a lot of plays from both sides. I will almost certainly be watching that game with great attentiveness. So I think to me, that's the make or break spot for really how I'm going to be handling my night and how I'm going to be betting today.
And finally, fade of the day. Is there one game, player, or team that you anticipate you'll have a lot less interest in than the rest of the public Spags?
I think for me right now, it's Svi Mykhailiuk. He's going to be very highly owned on FanDuel. I just don't see that number. And on DraftKings especially, like that price point, he still projects over 5x value for me, but I just don't have any confidence on him actually having a meaningful ceiling. So I think to me, his median outcome is a ceiling. So I think I would take him as my fade of the day.
Yeah, I mean, for me, coming at it from the betting perspective, there's a handful of games here with double-digit spreads. We talked Bulls, Jazz, OKC and the Suns, and the Rockets and the Celtics. That one in particular, I really have no desire to mess around. We've talked about Wall. We'll see what's the status, and Porter Jr. It's just a situation. I don't want to lay those points. Maybe a live bet, but for me, pretty easy stay away spots. I'll live to fight another day on the betting side.
Look at that. We did it.
Whew,
on the dot.
What a show.
There was so much that happened in the last hour. Thank you guys. Thank you to Spags. Thank you to Dr. Rasa, even for pulling out that costume today. Wow, what a treat that was. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. I'm Kayla Knierim. We will see you on Monday at 3 p.m. Don't forget the tip-off has its own stream. Have a great weekend. Happy Easter. See you next week.